Cool. Well, Director of Football Shaun Gill, nice of you to join us. We wanted to talk to you about, there's been obviously a change in the club's philosophy, so especially with promoting players from the academy. If you can just talk a bit about that, why has this change been made and what are you trying to achieve from it?
Yeah, so a change in philosophy is probably not quite right. I think what we've seen is an evolution of our academy pathway to the point now where we have what we feel is a good quality of player that's coming through. You know, players that have been in the New Zealand Under-17 campaign, also been in an Under-20 campaign, and who are good quality players who are ready now to step up into the A-League. So, you know, it's been a philosophy that's evolved over a number of years. You know, I don't think it's like a switch was flicked and we went, okay, all of a sudden we're going to do this, right? When I first started 10 years ago, we had a men's first team and we had a football school of excellence where we had 8 players that would come into Wellington. They would train with the Phoenix on a full-time basis and they would play for Team Wellington. And 10 years later, we now have 5 boys teams in the academy. We've got 3 girls teams in the academy. We've got an A-League men's team and we've got an A-League women's team. And with that growth, we've seen a growth in the development of the players and a growth in the quality of the players that are coming through. You know, to the point now where we have the Finn Sermons, we have the Sarpreet Singhs, the Libby Kakaches, but more modern day, I guess, with more today. You know, the Finn Conchis, the Isaac Hugheses, the Dan Mackay's, you know, these guys that were all good players at the New Zealand Under-20, for the New Zealand Under-20s at the World Cup. And we feel they're ready to play football. We feel they're ready to play A-League football. So, yeah, not a new philosophy, but I think just a cementing of that philosophy and a willingness now to talk more about that pathway and that desire to want to see these guys play.
Yeah, so just, I suppose, what are the benefits from all levels of the club from promoting players through the academy into the first team? Yeah,
I think there's a couple of benefits. You know, firstly, I think, and this has been part of the APL philosophy, football philosophy that's coming out at the moment. People want to see people that they know playing in the stadiums, right? So I think we feel it'll be more advantageous for our fans to be able to see players that they relate to, that have come through under-17s, come through under-20s. You know, that if they've seen play in the Wellington market or they've seen playing in the National League, you know, for the reserves against other teams. So we feel that's definitely one area. You know, and we're not just saying it's just going to be a team full of academy kids. You know, what we're saying is the best of those academy kids will come in and supplement the players that we have there, like the Roofers and the Paynes, Oldie, Suts, you know, and then the visa players on top of that. So yeah, we feel that hopefully it will pull more people into the stadium to see the players that they sort of have an affinity to. But then there's also the revenue side of it. You know, what we do know is there is a visibility on the A-League at the moment that was heightened or highlighted by the recent transfer window, which was the most successful transfer window in the history of the A-League. We didn't sell anyone in that one, but we did have Wayne that went in the January before. So what we do know through talking to various agents and various people around the world is that there is definitely a lens on the A-League, New Zealand and Australian football, and the clubs over there are looking for good 16 to 20-year-old players that they can bring overseas, develop further, and then in turn sell themselves. So, you know, we feel it's the right time to give more of these players exposure to A-League with a view that if they do well, then they will move on to where they want to get to in terms of their aspirations and dreams to be in Europe or wherever it is playing football, and the club will derive a revenue that we can reinvest back into the club and to the next group of players coming through.
So this is a more sustainable model for the future?
Definitely a more sustainable future. You know, we now have you know, as I said before, we had a club that was one men's team and 8 players basically, you know, once upon a time. Now we have a women's team, a men's team, both operating in the A-League, 8 teams in the academy. We're at this fantastic facility in NZCIS, so, you know, with that there is increased costs that come with having a club that big. So now we need to look at how do we make it more sustainable? How do we keep ourselves, put ourselves in a position where we continue to pay for this whole club for years to come, and obviously that has a benefit for football in New Zealand. You know, the more players that are coming through the system, the better it is going to be for New Zealand under age group teams in the future. You know, we've seen 2019 and the recent one in Argentina for the under-20s, where we've now got under-20 teams that are coming out of groups and qualifying for the playoff part of a World Cup. You know, so, and hopefully in time we'll see that happening at senior World Cup level. And
beyond transfer fees, there are also benefits of having players coming through the system and then representing national teams, etc.
Yeah, I think it's good for the whole of the game in New Zealand. You know, it can only be good for all whites and ferns if we have players that are coming through the pathway that then go on to play overseas and have a good grounding here. But also, you know, for us as a club, you know, we might not see the fruits of this season, but maybe we'll see the fruits of it next season, where we have a collective group of players that have another year's worth of ALeague experience, that have also experienced football together through the academy, and sort of know each other and grow with each other through that period, that actually, you know, maybe this year or maybe next season are quite successful.
The visa spots, so you're still going to pick visa players in the future, or is the plan to go all in with the academy?
No, it's definitely not. The plan is not to go all in with the academy. The academy forms, and the signing of the young players forms one chunk of a squad, right? Both in the A-League men and the A-League women's side of things. So you have to have a balance through that squad. The visa players are always looked at as supplementing adding to what you don't have. So we will always continue to do that. You know, will it be 5 every year? Maybe not, you know. And then within the sort of the next tier, which is your non-visa players, you still want to have that good quality A-League player that's played 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, whatever games it is. You know, and I think there you're looking at, you know, the likes of the Roofers and the Paynes, you know, Suts, Oldie when they get to that level as well. You know, you think about Ollie Sale, you know, Clayton Lewis, players like that. You know, those are the players that you still want in terms of the number of A-League games, and then you have what we think would be a good balanced squad. You know, it's not just going to be about playing the reserve team in the A-League. It's definitely not about that. It's about having a good balance, but also giving those academy players an opportunity to play A-League minutes.
Yeah, how important is it, not just for the Phoenix, but all teams in the A-League to get those minutes for those young players, I suppose, for the credibility of the league, and also to help push on these players to further competitions and further leagues in Europe?
Yeah, look, it's massive. It's massive. There's a lot of work going on at APL level around the football strategy and what the league is about. You know, both the A-League men and the A-League women's. You know, it's never going to be a buying league. You know, like you think about the top 5 leagues in the world: Premier League, Bundesliga, etc., etc. It's probably more of a selling league. And in order to be a selling league, you know, the players have got to play. You think about, you know, the Netherlands and Belgium and places like that, where, you know, the kids are coming through and they're getting game time, and then they're being sold on to the bigger leagues. So that's probably where it sits for us. But that can't just be about kids playing with kids. You know, kids have got to play, or young players have got to play with a range of people, but they need to get the minutes in there. And I think what we'll see, yeah, since COVID probably actually jump-started this, right, where we saw a number of under-23s or under-20s getting minutes, and I think now we're just seeing the evolution of that to go, hey, this is not just a COVID thing. We can actually, and we should be doing this to give these kids an opportunity. So I think we'll continue to see more minutes at under-23 level as we go forward.
The men still have one visa spot available. It hasn't been used as of yet. Is it still a chance of being used this season?
Oh, I think there's definitely a chance that it will be used this season. You know, now we could only sign a player that was out of contract at the 12th of September when the window closed. We're pretty much used up all the budget that we currently have for the season. So, but who knows what will happen in January, right? You know, we might lose a player, there might be a sale, and then that might free some funds up, and, you know, then we might utilise that extra visa spot. So I think we're in a good position. We've got one up our sleeve.
And what are the expectations for the squad? It's obviously not the same overall calibre as last season, but do you still think this squad can achieve something this year, can still make the finals?
Yeah, I do think it can make the finals. The aspiration is always to finish as high as possible as you can up the table. The aspiration is always to go into a game on the weekend and collect 3 points, and that won't change. Is the squad as good as last year? Who knows? We haven't seen Finn Conchi play on the park yet. We've got to see Isaac Hughes. Is Alex Paulson going to be the number one throughout the whole season? There's still a lot of questions that need to be answered, and we'll only see that as we get into the first rounds of the season. But I still think there is enough quality in the group. We've retained 12 players or 13 players who've gone through from last year into this year. We've got 4 visa players that have come from last year into this year, which is almost unheard of. We've got a 15-goal striker in Oscar Savada that's going into the second season, and visa players tend to be better in the second season once they've acclimatised to the league. So we still feel there's good quality in this squad to be making the playoffs, and from there, who knows.
Very much looking ahead to the future though, this squad, and this is sort of the start of maybe not a rebuild but a reset, maybe not quite the same pressure on Chiefy for the first season in charge.
I think Chiefy will put enough pressure on himself, right? Look, as I said, coaches, players, administrators, anybody involved with the club, the fans on the weekend, nobody's going into this going, okay, we might, hopefully we get a point this weekend, or hopefully we finish the top 6. There's aspiration around the club still to do well. I know the players are out there busting every week, every day at training, right? They want to win football games. They want to make the playoffs. They want to finish as high up the table as possible. Chiefy wants to show his wares. He wants to prove himself as an A-League coach, and a good A-League coach. So as a person working in it, but a fan of the club as well, I'm excited about what the season has to offer.
And just finally, obviously, a lot of players have been promoted from the academy. Do you still look at players, New Zealand players from outside the academy that are playing domestically here?
Yeah, look, we were always getting names thrown at us. We were always out looking. Greeny was up in Auckland last week at the 23s, with the 23s, him and Steve Coleman. Well, they went and watched 3 or 4 games up there. There was a couple of players that, sort of put their hands up that we'll continue to have conversations with. So we're always looking at football games. It makes it a lot easier when you've got players here that are working with our academy staff. We have good connection now with the academy staff. Their lineman is there. We're meeting regularly with the academy staff on what players are doing what. We have, generally speaking, throughout the Central League season and the National League season, where it doesn't clash with any A-League activity, Chiefy's there watching games. So it is easier because we get to see these players on a daily basis that are within our academy, and we get to bring them up into the environment whenever we need to and whenever we feel it's best. But that's not to say we don't look outside. And
you'll be hopefully announcing some more scholarship players in the near future too for the next first team?
Yep. We still have a large group of the reserve team that are going into the National League campaign that starts this weekend with Auckland City that are up here training. We were looking at potentially giving 2 of those scholarships now, but we felt we would give everyone a little bit more time, and we'll probably look to move that from 2 to 4, just to give a few more the opportunity to get into the professional environment. But that'll probably come later in the year.